All right, today we're looking at slopes. So we're going to fill out these notes, go over a couple things about slopes together, and then we will have you move on to the practice today. So the main thing that we want to talk about today is what is slope. So our first thing that we're going to fill out is that slope is the steepness or the measure of the steepness of a line. Another thing that slope is the rate of change. How much is things changing in this line? So I'm going to find my rate of change. Perfect. So when we look at slope, again, think of about a mountain, right? Some mountains are pretty easy to hike because they don't go, the incline's not that much. And then some mountains are very steep and you're dying and you don't want to walk up all that, right? That's going to be basically what slope is today. We want to basically find out how steep the line is. The way that we're going to do that is by the change in y over the change in x. So I'm going to put a little delta symbol right here to stand for the change in. So this delta symbol is the same thing as the change in y over the change in x. Or we also like to say rise over run, because rise stands for our y value because y is up and down, and run stands for our x value left and right. So rise over run, change in y over change in x. These are kind of like your formulas, the most important thing on this whole entire page, right? When we read a graph, we always want to read a graph from left to right, just like a book, right? Whenever you get to a book, you start with the very first line and you read it from left to right to know exactly what's going to happen in the book. Same thing for a graph. We are going to look at the graph and from left to right see, does that graph go up, or from left to right, does it go down? Okay? Pause your video if you need to finish this. So we're going to keep going. We're going to look at, there are 4 different types of slopes. You're going to use this information directly in your lesson today. It's going to show you a bunch of pictures of graphs and it's going to say, what type of slope is this? So not specifically what is the slope. I'm not looking for an actual answer 2/3 or anything. Just what type of slope is it? Is it a positive, negative, 0, or undefined? Those are your 4 types of slopes. Positive from left to right goes up. So if I'm looking at a graph and I'm reading it from left to right, it is going to go up. Very similar to this one right here. From left to right, this graph is increasing. It is going up, which would mean that this would be a positive slope. Positive slope might also look like 2 positive numbers, like 2/3. Or we also know that 2 negatives make a positive, so it could be 2 negative numbers, like -2 and -3. But this is a type of slope, positive slope. The second type of slope is a negative slope, which means from left to right, it's going down. So if I start at my farthest left point and I look over, it's going to be going down. So again, very similar to this one. If I read this from left to right, that is going down. This would be a negative slope. Again, a negative slope is going to have 1 negative number because we know that 2 negative numbers make a positive. So we don't want 2. So we're going to have 1. That 1 can be on the top. That 1 can be on the bottom, the negative. But either way, it is just 1 negative number, which makes it go down, right? Because I'm still going to the left or to the right, which is positive, but I'm going down now, which is negative. Then I have my 0 and undefined. A lot of times kids get these confused. A 0 is just a nice horizontal line. And again, we can think about that because my rise, I have no rise. It's not going up at all, but it is going over. So it'd be 0/1 or 0/5 or something like that. Whereas my vertical line, I have a rise, let's say I'm rising 1, so going from here to here up 1, but then I don't go over at all, which means it would be 1 over 0, which if I plug this into my calculator, it tells me error. And the reason why it's error is because I can't do 1 divided by 0, which makes it an undefined slope. So again, make sure that you know the difference of these. If you just look at the graphs, you should be able to tell me, oh, this will have a positive slope, or this is going to have a negative slope, or this is 0 or undefined slope. Okay? Now we're going to actually look at how do we figure out slope, right? So again, remember, we've been talking about change in y over the change in x. So we have change in y over the change in x, or again, rise over run. Okay, so if I'm looking at this, first and foremost, I want to find 2 dots on my graph. And I'm going to make a little triangle. Doesn't matter whether the triangle's on this side of the graph, or it doesn't matter whether the triangle's on this side of the graph. But either way, I'm going to make a triangle. And I'm going to look at my rise and my run, or my y and my x. So from this point to this point, did I go up to get to the next point, or did I go down to get to the next point? Well, in this one, I went up. Let's see how many boxes I went up. I went up 1, 2, 3. Same thing on this side. From this dot up to this one, I went up 3. So my rise is 3, or my change in y is 3. Now I'm going to look at my x. How far over did I go? Did I run, right? So remember, up is positive, down is negative, left is negative, right is positive, right? Just like our graph. So in this case, I'm going from this point over to this point, I'm going to the right one. So I'm only going to the right one. So my rise was 3, my run is 1. This is my slope of that line. Notice it is a positive slope because both numbers were positive. So I'm going to come over here, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to draw a little triangle. I'm going to count rise first. So from this point over to this point, did I go up or did I go down? I went down, and I went down 1 box. So I went down, which means negative, and down 1 box. Then from this point to this point, did I go left or did I go right? Well, I went right, and it looks like I went right 1, 2, 3 boxes. So then it's going to be a positive 3. And again, we notice a negative slope because only one of those numbers is negative. All right, our last one over here. I'm going to draw my box. Again, from here to here, so left to right, I went down again. I went down 1, 2, 3. So I went down 3. And then in this time, I went to the right again, positive 1, 2. So then my slope here would be negative 3 over 2. That is how to tell on a graph. Again, we're going to do more of this tomorrow. Mainly today, you just need to be able to tell me whether it's positive, negative, or 0 or undefined. And you should be able to tell me the slope of a line just because we just went over it, but we're going to do a lot more of this tomorrow. The last thing we want to look at is, what if I have tables instead of graphs? So again, we're still going to be looking at that change in y over that change in x. So looking at y's, how much is it changing by? From 5 to 8, we're adding 3. From 8 to 11, we're adding 3. From 11 to 14, we're adding 3. So my change in y every time is a 3. What is my change in x each time? So from 1 to 3 is 2. From 3 to 5 is 2. So it looks like it's changing 2 each time. So this would be my slope. Looking down here, so from here to here is a 4, from here to here is a 4, from here to here is 2, from here to here is 2. So again, a lot of people want to write 4 over 2, But remember, it's change in y. So we're going to put our y first, which is 2, over our x, which is 4. Now notice this fraction. This is a perfectly great answer, 2 over 4. But anytime I have a fraction that can be reduced, I want to reduce that. I can divide both of these by 2 and get 1/2. This is the answer you're going to write in the fill in the blank or whatever. Make sure that you reduce your fractions as much as possible. All right, last one on here, and then we are done with this guided notes. Again, we're going to find the change in y first. So notice this one is going down. So I'm not adding any, I'm subtracting numbers now. So in order to get from 50 to 36, I'm going to subtract 14. Same thing from 36 to 22, I'm going to subtract 14. This is my change in y. So now I'm going to find my change in x. Okay, well in this case, they're getting bigger again. So from 3 to 10 is 7. From 10 to 17 is 7. Okay, so I have my change in y, which is negative 14, my change in x, which is 7. Again, can I reduce this? These can both be divided by 7. 14 divided by 7 is a negative 2, and 7 divided by 7 is a 1. So this would be my slope of this line. And then again, notice it's a negative slope, which means this line will be going down like this. All right, that is your guided notes. Hopefully you filled in every single one of those blanks. Hopefully you showed some work so that way you know how to do it later. And now you're going to practice on the assignment.